We're
good. I'm
watching
waving
all
at
your
you.
co yeah, there's this is going in fact, you know what, guys? If you guys have questions, drop them in here.
Yeah,
And I know we're riffing on just life in general, but as your questions come in, I promise we're going to see them and we'll answer them.
I like it.
Um,
Stress. Talking about stress, positive
we're
stress
talking about
and
stress,
good
right?
stress.
The bad stress to me is what we all have an opportunity to recalibrate our relationship to,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the fuel that's the stuff that we, because good stress, bad stress, at the end of the day, it's still something on your body, it's still on your heart, it's still on your mind. And by taking this time to recalibrate the role it plays in your life and transforming
Mhm.
it into fuel instead of trash, that to me is one of the most productive things we can do. And that to me takes
You
a
want that.
healthy set, it takes a healthy level of good stress to
Hmm.
put yourself in that position, to even look at yourself through that lens, right?
Well, I think people, it's interesting because stress is really, it's a word that like, kind of like ego has a negative connotation. However, ego in and of itself is a good thing. It's weird. Like the
Yes.
fact that ego exists. What's up, Beck and Midas? But the thing with
What's up,
stress
Erwin?
is necessary for everything we're talking about doing. If I want to, let's see, become a better singer, right? I have to stress myself in terms of like, I got to get up and I got to practice. I don't know, vocal stuff, me. I got to do stuff, right? If I wanted to get stronger, I got to stress the muscle so to come back. Maybe he's frozen. Maybe you're frozen.
I don't know, bro.
The aspect of what we're
I'm
talking about,
fine.
stress. Oh, there you are. Oh, you froze for a second. But the aspect of stress, like we absolutely need it. And what happens with stress is now that you're stressed, you do come back stronger. And I want strength for the thing in the future I don't see. That's what I
Yes.
want. Like, I want to be strong for the moment, for the situation that needs me in the future, because that future thing is either going to be a burden because it's going to set you up for failure because you weren't prepared, or it's an opportunity because you were prepared. And so I seek out and enjoy the stresses that most people are like, "Oh, I don't want to do all that." I'm like, oh, that scares you? Let me see why. Oh, I can get that. And I figure it out. And now that thing that stressed you is an opportunity for me, and you can put yourself in a good position for it. So we should, in my head, we should seek out things that stress us. I'm not saying overwhelm you, but stress you a little bit. See what you got. Build the muscles of life and strength, and then you can actually move into way more opportunities later.
Well, I found that, like, if you think about what you want in your future, right? There's a certain type of person that has the things you want in the future. The beautiful part
Mm-hmm.
of recognizing that truth is that you can tap into that person right now. Like the resolve that that person, like whatever, where that person is, let's say you want success in your business. Let's say you want success. Like there's a certain set of actions that that person had to take in order to get there. You can be that person
Yeah.
today. And that's where good stress, I think, becomes such a beautiful bridge. Because when you can stress and add the stress on yourself to live into a version of you that you know is possible, a version of you that does live
Mm-hmm.
inside of you, a version of you that does lean into possibility and growth, that to me is a perfect foundation for living your life to the fullest. It's leaning
Mm-hmm.
into the truth that you have so much more,
Always.
that even if you are absolutely content with where you're at right now, there's so much beauty in leaning into who you are at your core in every moment.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And
There is. I mean, it's hard to see it if you've never experienced it, because then it just looks like scary stuff. But when you get into it, you're like, oh, I'm dope, and then it feels beautiful.
so there's a question from Prince Max here. What was one of your stressful situations that you've been in?
It's a good question. And then Irwin B. Valencia, I'm going to get that too, man. I don't think we want to miss Irwin's, but I think what was the most, for me, a stressful situation? I've had many from sports through life, but I've had a whole bunch. I think one of the most stressful for me, I think one of the stress situations when I was had like first had my brick and mortar business. I owned my gym. Within the first 9 months, I had a guy roll up on a Harley and serve me papers for eviction. I had like 2 weeks to come up with more, like three times the amount of money I had in my bank account, four times. And if I didn't, I was going to end up going bankrupt. And so that was stressful. I figured it out. Had to sell some drugs. I'm kidding. I didn't do that. No, but I had to do some crazy negotiations, some incredibly stressful actions that were far outside of my ego's and identity's comfort zone at that moment. I did not identify with the person that had to do the actions I was forced to do. At this point, I am, but back then, I'm not the guy that does that. Ugh, I didn't want to do it. Every phone call I made was seriously like pulling teeth. I'm not just saying that like as a euphemism. It was actually, I don't even know if I used that word euphemism correctly. I'm hoping I did. I'm not just saying that, but legitimately, like it felt painful. And I figured it out though, man. 2 weeks later, I had the whole thing up running operational. So yeah, it's there's a lot of them. That's just one of many, many, many. What was the other question? I think it was a good question. Unless you want to answer that one, what was the one thing? What's one thing you're working on right now, Raj?
One thing I'm working on right now, by the way, Erwin, good to have you here, brother. He's a buddy.
Oh,
Um,
nice. What's up, Irwin?
the one thing I'm working on right now, really leaning. Well, last few months have been. I kind of echo what you're saying, Anthony, going into full service mode and supporting the people in our communities as well as I can. I've also
Mhm.
been I'm also in charge of fairly large teams. And so my big goal has been to make sure everybody still has a job, everyone still has a paycheck coming in, especially during these times. So making pivots in business, making strategic investments, making strategic partnerships.
Hmm.
So that's one of the big things. Really, I've been stretching my own ability to pivot and turn lemons into lemonade and order the lobster tail. And
Yeah.
so it's taken a lot of focus to really learn how to be a leader inside of a crisis that is unprecedented, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we haven't had a pandemic in over 100 years. And so, there's not a lot of even my own mentors, ones who have gone through several economic crises and they've gone through their own sort of ups and downs, but even them, they're figuring it out here. And I think there's a really fresh and
Yeah.
beautiful, I think there's something beautiful in that. So for me, I've been really learning how to be a leader inside of these times of crisis,
Necessary.
how yeah, just do what I need to do to give the people that put their faith and trust in me the
Hmm.
confidence to continue following us into battle, continue doing what we need to do as a company, and to continue providing the service that we want to the world. So that's really been one of the big things that I've been working on
I like it.
during these times.
Necessary
Uh,
because it's farther, it's bigger than you, and it is. I know Irwin. It's E. I don't know him as Irwin though, but I know him as E. The Knicks. Like I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but no, I get you, man. I think it's what I like that you've been focused on that. It's cool because it's necessary. It's needed in the world. There's no definitive like here's what we do. We're making it up as we go right now.
Yeah. What is well, one stressful situation? I'll share mine too. Then I want to hear your
Please.
answer, bro, on what you've been working on during these times. But
Oh, I got you.
stressful situation. So one of the most stressful ones that I was in was a few years ago, actually. So for those of you who don't know, one of my companies is a coffee company, and we manufacture our own line of patented equipment all over the world. So we have factories all over the world, and one of our best-selling products we sourced and manufactured and patented in China. And we created a category online for manual coffee grinders. Like that was a niche that didn't exist before my company started making products for it.
Hmm.
And so we put up this product. We were doing great, and we were all over the internet, just on a rocket ship type growth, hockey stick type growth. And then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, we got hit with over 150 different counterfeits from
Oh
all over the
wow.
world of people ripping off our designs, our branding, our packaging, our manufacturing, and undercutting us on every single marketplace.
Wow.
So like we went through a phase where I was losing 70% of revenue a month.
That's nuts.
Building, and we were investing for growth. We were trying to grow. And this was my first full year as an entrepreneur. I started
Nuts.
my first business when I worked full time, and so I always had the safety of an income coming in, and like I
Hmm.
never had to really deal with the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And man, that was just a
Tumultuous.
crazy time. Yeah, it was a lot because like I had no playbook for this. I had no idea how to handle it, and
Mm.
I ended up figuring it out just like you did. Like I ended up, just going to war against those guys, lawsuits and, lawyering up and playing just a different game of business that I never really knew how to play. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about who I am. I learned a lot about my own resolve. And I think, and it's just coming back to the idea of crisis, man, like you can't know full potential until you're put towards until you're put to a test that's
Have
worth
to.
bringing out that potential.
Hmm.
Because I mean, think about it. Like if we were constantly operating at full potential every single moment, like we're putting ourselves at risk whenever we truly need to be operating at a higher potential. So your
True.
body shuts you down. Like David Goggins talks about that, right? Like when you hit the pain, when you get to, those painful moments, your body's only
Hmm.
operating at 40% of your capacity.
Yeah, still
There's
got
still
more.
60% of reserves that can only be accessed when you're pushed to that flame and
Mm.
you're forced to. And I found that consistently every single time. The human spirit is an indomitable force. Like it
It really
is.
is though. It's like when you get down to the depths of it, dude, it will fire on. And if you go into survival mode, that's when people check out of who they are. Like they turn into this different animal, and then it shows up. But some people are afraid to let the animal out of the cage, or they're never met with a moment that the animal has to come to life. And then when they are, the animal's been weakened. Same thing going to stress. You're talking about the stress. That thing gives you that weird, creepy like sense of like I think a lot of people when I talk about fear of failure, I think it's not fear of failure. It's fear of not knowing who I'll be in the moment of difficulty. Because it's like I don't have a fear of failure because I know who I am, right?
Yeah.
So when I get it into a situation like I'm going to take on a new challenge, I actually have a creepy desire, like, all right, let's figure out what's going to break. It's a weird thing. Like at this point, I'm like, all right, let's see what life can throw at me because I know that I bring me to those problems. And that's a different level of confidence that you can't give somebody or talk somebody into, or like, here's a structural way to think. It's just, do you trust enough in yourself that when a problem arises, that you're going to figure it out? Not because of willpower, right? It's one part of it, but like, do you have a mental way of like overcoming and figuring things out? And just a fact, like, I
Yeah.
like a lot of people will look for excuses before they look for a solution. So I'm flip flop. Like I will look for a solution before I look for an excuse not to do it. Because of that, I'm like, all right, let's try this new thing. And then it's a matter of just going in. So it's not like a fear of failure. It's not even a fear of anything. It's like a excitement to try. It's an excitement to learn. It's a way different monster of how I approach things.
It's a faith in your ability to figure things out. It's resourcefulness at its very core, right? The
Yeah.
ultimate, Tony Robbins talks about this, the ultimate resource is resourcefulness.
Yeah. Not
And right,
resources.
like,
It's
because
what
I
can you
mean,
figure out?
like if you don't have money, but you're passionate enough, you're charming enough, you're connected enough, like you think you'll find a way to get the money? Of course.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, like and that's maybe what it is. Resourcefulness is that human spirit. It's confidence. It's that human
Right.
spirit. It's that ability to simply dance inside of chaos, knowing that I don't
Mhm.
know what is happening out there. But because here's the thing, the carpets always match the drapes. Like
Yeah.
we come from nature. We are
Hmm.
chaos. Like on the inside, there's so much chaos. Like how many days
All
have you like
times.
we have 70,000 thoughts a day.
A day.
There are days where I have felt angry, sad, anxious, fearful, courageous, joyful, like
All at the same
excited,
time.
all in a 5 minute period. And so like when we start to recognize that, the chaos outside of us really is just a mirror for whatever we have inside. And when we choose to lean in and resolve and accept and just really kind of treasure the chaos inside of us, we don't run from chaos anymore. You can't.
No,
Like
there's no need
because
to.
you're recognizing that this is just life. Like those false notions that things are supposed to go exactly a certain way and things are always
Hmm.
going to go by plan. Like when you lose the need to hold on to that story,
Yeah.
that's true freedom.
Yeah. We were just saying that in my head. I'm thinking, I don't even know if I even have that. I don't even, when I start things, I almost don't have this hope that's going to go a specific way. I'm more excited to see how it's going to go because I know that the
Mm-hmm.
plan it's like a life is what happens between the plan. I have this perfect plan of what I'm going to do, and then all of a sudden life happens. And I don't even have a desire of like, all right, I'm looking forward to this thing working the way I talked about. That's not even something that registers anymore. It's more of like, I'm looking forward to this journey I'm about to go on and figure out what goes on. It could be a small journey. It could be like I got to figure out how to, use this new website and build something, whatever it is. I'm gonna try it. I know I'm not gonna figure it out in 3 hours. I set aside three. It's gonna take like 10. But it's like, let's see how it works. And so we go in and then we figure it out. And people are like, how do you know so much? I don't know. I keep playing with life, man. I just get in there and click buttons and play around, and I learn more because I'm open to learning more, whereas most people aren't.
And I think that curiosity is a gift. Like when you get curious, not necessarily about the world around you, but more so about what you can do, like it becomes a playful way to approach just about any problem, any
Yeah.
situation, any place you are. Like curiosity, I think, is one of the most powerful. uh, one of the most powerful personality traits. Like just being curious. Like that's something that you can practice. What do
You
you
can.
what I'm curious, like I'm curious about, and I want to ask you,
I see what you
what
did there.
what is what do you think are some, so like we talked about resourcefulness and
Yeah.
we just touched on curiosity. What do you think are a few other sort of inherent truths that sort of accompany a powerful human spirit?
Empathy is a big one. And I don't mean empathy in terms of like I feel sad all the time about when you feel sad. I think empathy is one of the things. Communication, I think, is the key to life. Like
Yeah.
understanding how to communicate with other humans. I don't know if people haven't learned this or don't desire to, but the fact that we can sit and talk, have a conversation, and go back and forth, this allows me to meet cool people, to have cool conversations, to get what I want out of life. If I want to be charismatic or persuasive, it's just communication is a key. And I don't think that enough people have the ability to have the empathy that they need to be successful, we'll call it. I think the one thing that really falls short for a lot of people is they don't feel other human beings, right? Like they don't listen to you enough, or they don't pay attention well enough, or hear your heart. Therefore, they either get selfish and cut themselves off from an opportunity, or they're not able to learn what they should learn from the moment because they didn't feel what they're supposed to feel in the moment. And that's what happens when I'm like around certain people that are successful. Like they can feel the energy of the room. And here's how I know this person's at my wavelength. If I'm in a room with say 10 people and a few of the people start doing something odd, I'll just kind of like look at them like this is odd. And I'll scan the room to see who else is noticing the oddness. And you'll catch eyes with somebody and and you'll go, that's my guy. Like this guy, we're gonna say this guy gets he gets the energy, the feeling like he gets it. So I'd be like, he'd be like, oh, I'm like, all right, we'll just sit here and watch. But now I know my guy or my girl, right? And but that's the kind of like that person I can talk to and I can ask like, what are your thoughts on this? What's going on? Like, and they just you can have a different level of a wavelength of conversation. And I think empathy, like you're asking, I think is one of the things that people don't attest to being successful, but it really is a big key. Whether it's being an alpha individual or not being an alpha, like you have to be able to feel other human beings and operate from that space to have great communication skills to be able to get things done.
Well, I think I've started becoming more aware of this. Human beings operate at the level of feeling.
Yeah,
Like before I even say hi to you, man, I can walk into a room and already know that I'm gonna give you a damn hug, right? Like I know, like you're my boy, you're my boy. I can like, and you can intuitively before you even say something to somebody, like you can tell who you want to be around. Like you naturally,
yeah,
your body, because
everybody will
if
feel
you
it.
think about it, like your subconscious mind is like really only 3% of our conscious brain is like actually the like being used to solve problems. Like our subconscious is running so much stuff on autopilot. Our senses, like our sense of hearing, our sense of smell, our sense of taste, our sight, it's
Nonstop.
collecting all this data nonstop. And
Yeah.
for us to think that feel and really that's your feelings. Like your feelings have so much more wisdom than what we give credit to, really. Just
I
because we
agree.
can't see them
Doesn't mean it's not going
or
on.
no, man, like it's that's like we operate at the level of feeling. Like and that's why a smile can pierce through just about any language. Like it's operated at the level of joy and feeling. And
Hmm.
that to me, I think is and I'm really glad you brought that up because I think that is leaning into the truth of what connects us as human beings. Like
It
these things we're
is.
talking about, they're not like things you have to learn in a book. Like resourcefulness, not something you need to learn in a book. Curiosity is not something you need to learn in a
Can't learn in
book.
a book.
You can't learn these things in books. They're just
Mm.
innate things that you actually already know how to do
Hmm.
if you're confident, if you're
Yeah.
present, if you're willing to go inward. And that to me is kind of a perfect cocktail for just creating exemplary, extraordinary human beings.
Yeah. And I don't know where we get those things. Those are learned situations. I think there's a connection between the conscious actions that we take with a realization that there will be a subconscious benefit that your brain won't grasp or understand right now. But it'll be like that moment later on where you're like, something just doesn't feel right. And wherever that looks like this doesn't feel right, or it feels off. When those words come out of people's mouths, that's me realizing like somewhere in the past you took a conscious action, and that conscious action took, something, an outcome came from it. And emotionally you felt something, understood something happened, which turns into a moment later on where you're like, I gotta figure this thing out. And like you're like, oh, this feels off or it feels odd. That's the empathy. That's the feeling. That's exactly what you're talking about. That's the emotion that runs us that we think is like the gut. But I think at the end of the day, and Toby, I saw your question. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot
Yep.
of stuff coming in all day long. And as it all comes in and runs through our head, it can't all sit in the forefront. Like it can't sit up front. The prefrontal cortex can't handle it all. But it's still like when you see somebody's eyes twitch or their voice crack or you see their body language, your brain's still absorbing that. It's just going back
Yes.
there. You get a collection of stuff back here. And every once in a while the brain like connects some dots, says, hey, there's something. And you're like, shut up. I'm trying to, what do you, shut up. And he's like, no, I don't. And all of a sudden something happens. You're like, okay, I felt like there was something. Why didn't I listen to it? So now, like, as opposed to like, shut up. I'm like, hey, hold on. What? What? Oh yeah. Okay, this cat's weird. I'm not gonna get in the car with you. You look a little bit loopy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. Like you look a little, I'm not gonna get shot and drugged to an open, ravine somewhere. Like, but that's really the gut coming in, like the crazy situation. It's the same thing in a conversation with somebody at a coffee shop who's a little bit off. Or you can tell in like the inbox if somebody sends you funny messages. I'm like, spidey senses, what's going on here? So you just gotta kind of use the gut, pay attention. It's all there. It's the subconscious, it's got conscious feeding into it that you just gotta pay attention to more.
Yeah, and I think that's why feeling your and there's any importance to building emotional intelligence. You can't build emotional, really that's what that is, right? It's emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence is only built when you have the courage to feel your own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, right? Like you can't know emotions and others. You can't feel into that energy because emotions are just energy and motion. It's all flowing through you. So like at the end of the day, like if you and but that's it's like simple things, man. Like we don't teach like how do you feel? Like I wish that was a class
Yeah,
in
right.
like elementary school, like how to learn from your feelings, what anger
Goodness.
means, how to listen to sadness, like how to process these things. Because I think there's so much wisdom that gets left behind when we constantly think that the answers to all of our problems are found outside of us.
Yeah,
Like
that's tough.
that's and that habit ingrained from a very young age is tough. Now I want to answer Toby's question because I thought it was really good.
I didn't read
Um,
it. It was
so
blocking my face, and for some reason, I
yeah,
didn't read
yeah,
it.
yeah. All right. You are two very successful people. What advice would you give someone who is starting out in the entrepreneur world?
Man, it's interesting.
Um,
Because there's
you
different
want,
levels. I'm finding I'll take my leg of it, but then I want you to give your leg of it because my
yeah.
entrepreneur is different than your entrepreneur, somewhat. Yeah, because you're in like you're like product creation, right? Like you're in distribution. You're
I do a
different.
little bit. I do everything, dude.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Like my entrepreneurship was it's like personal. Not that you're not a personal brand because you got a personal brand too. I'm like personal brand, like a gym at a gym, right? Here's what I think baseline. The core of it is I say at some point in time I am not going to rely upon somebody else to cut my paycheck. That's the root of it, I think. And that's a different kind of step out. So I think one of the first things is you have to determine. There's a great book. What I was just pulling out and talking to somebody yesterday by Tamara Lowe. And Tamara Lowe, I don't know what she does or who she is an older book, but she has this thing called motivational DNA. And I found out recently, like by reading and rereading this, that is a basic concept. It drives needs and awareness, right? This is what she talks about, the DNA. And we could see this, right? And I think it's a cool basic concept. And so entrepreneurship, if I think it's a personality trait, to be totally honest, my best friend in the world was given an opportunity to be an entrepreneur with a guaranteed, not possible, guaranteed 90,000 a year with an upside of 400 plus thousand a year within a 2 year period. To just do, all you have to do is sell vegetables to people that already wanted to buy. It's seriously that simple. And here's what I realized he wasn't built for. He literally was like, I don't want to do it. He kept his job, and I'm nothing wrong. Like, love the guy, love the guy. He made a decision. He's like, you know what? I don't like instability. There wasn't much instability in comparison to what I do. And so DNA is like this drives. Are you a connection person or production person? Do you need to have a connection or you need to produce, produce, produce? What's your drive? What gets you connected to the next level, right? Then this is the one where I realize there's differences. Needs. Am I a stability person or variety person? I think a true entrepreneur is a variety human. The thought of me having stability and doing the same thing every day for the next 10 year of my life, it gives me anxiety thinking about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Like my best friend, he knows for 15 years the path he's going to take every day on the freeway and the office he's going to sit in and the amount of money he's going to make. The thought of it makes me a little bit like pukey. It's weird. And for him, like he likes the stability and the consistency. That's what he likes. My need is variety. I need difference. I need to know I'm going to hop on a random day with my man Raj and just chat about who knows what for how long, and then get into the day. I need to know that I'm going to get to try and do a bunch of different
Yep.
stuff, right? I'm a taste tester. I want to taste everything as opposed to like I'm going to the restaurant for the same meal every day. That's just weird for me, and that's difference, right? Because I can't fathom the idea of asking somebody for 2 weeks off, whereas he can't fathom the idea of not knowing my paycheck next month. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just a difference. And then you have what's awards. Drive needs awards, and his award is internal, external. Do I need the world to see me, give me praise, or do I need to feel good about myself? So I think one of the lead-ins for entrepreneurship, like getting started out, is determine, are you genuinely a variety person or a stability person? Because that'll lead you into what you create and how you do it. And I think one big thing with entrepreneurship, which is the same thing said over and over, is pretty much echoing what we're talking about. You are going to have to be a person that starts to have a really, really good relationship with fear, anxiety, stress, hardship. Like you better like puzzles. If you don't like puzzles, do
Yep.
not become an entrepreneur because puzzles, I love puzzles. If you hate puzzles, bro, that's going to be 90% of your life in this journey.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what you're saying actually. So I think one of the most important things to figure out before you jump into the world of entrepreneurship, and you can tip your toes in. Like you can. You may not be successful, but you can
Okay.
dip your toes in to get a taste of what it's like. I remember when I first started my
100%.
first company, like I had a full-time job. I was an engineer. I bought a course online that taught me how to start a side hustle, and that's how I got
Hmm.
started.
Yeah.
Right? Like I started teaching myself online marketing and business, and I still had the comfort of a full-time paycheck coming in. So to me, I love the idea. I think it's important to know who you are. That and there's no better way to know who you are than to try things and see how they feel. But being aware when you're first starting out, just like Anthony said on kind of knowing what drives you is really important because at the end of the day, like entrepreneurship is not like it's very rewarding. That's I think that's the word I would use to describe it. It's very rewarding, but it's not easy. And it's not just like clocking in every day and getting a paycheck. Eventually, at some point, you can do enough hard work to where you can set things up to where financially you're not worried. But when you're first starting out, that's not going to be the case. And so when
Hmm.
you're first starting out, what's really important for me is to not necessarily be driven by passion, but more so be driven by purpose. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why does this even matter to you? Right? Like, why is having control of your life important to you? Do you
Hmm.
think it's going to lead you to having more money, which is then going to allow you to take care of your family better? Do you think it's part of your DNA and who you are, and it's something that drives you to experience something special in your life? Like, I think it's really clear to get clear on that why,
Yeah.
because that
Have
why
to.
is that why is what's going to push you. Like being passionate about something is not enough to pull you
It'll
through the
die
ups
off.
and downs. It'll die off. Passion is like a flame, it's a fizzle. But purpose, though, purpose is rooted in something much deeper. It's rooted in where you come from. It's rooted in where you want to go. It's the undercurrent of honest ambition. It's the undercurrent of what you do and why you do it. And your purpose will evolve over time. Like my purpose initially when I started out was, I had a mentor who worked 40 years for the same company, die of a heart attack 3 months before retirement.
Oh,
And
crazy.
this is when I was first starting out. I was doing my side hustles. I was just testing things on the side. And when that happened, I realized that I didn't want anybody in my life to think that they had to wait until retirement in order to start living. And so my purpose became to be the example for my parents because my parents were first generation immigrants, came to the US with $50 in their pockets and just worked their entire lives, never, and they were waiting for retirement. And the idea of something like what happened to my mentor happening to my dad freaked me out. And that then became my calling card. Like I somehow then started waking up at 5 a.m. and working from 5 to 7 a.m. And then I went to work and then I came back after work and I worked and I did that for a while until we became successful. But so it wasn't passion. I wasn't passionate about this entrepreneurship thing. I just knew what I didn't want, which was sometimes enough of a motivator to really kind of get clear on what I do want.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I think purpose. We talk about crisis a lot in this live, and crisis and things like whether it's something intentional, like you put yourself through something to figure something out, or you get hit with a pandemic, or a loved one passes, or you get laid off from your job. All of these events are defining moments and helping you get clear on that purpose. And so I think if you're getting started in entrepreneurship, chase the why, not the what,
Always.
because the what can change at any given moment.
And to be honest, all this stuff's driven. I think the one of the big problems that I find with like a lot of entrepreneurs, like I've been pivoting a lot towards coaches. Like I find that as I work with entrepreneurs, the ones that really, I think it's one of the things you just figure out. I don't think it's better to others. I figure out like I really like 90% of my clientele are all coaches anyways. I have the clients that have some, physical brick and mortar businesses and product stuff. I'm like, man, I love the coaches in the heart. The problem I run into is if they don't really know why they're doing it, they haven't come to me with this really anchored down, like this is a thing I've got to do. Like I have this creepy, deep purpose that this is what I'm supposed to do. Like it's
Yeah.
more than a why. It's I guess it's more in the line of like a calling or
Yeah.
it's like this, it's like a, I don't know how to explain it. Like it was something
To
that was
knowing.
given to me. It's a knowing. I feel like a better word for it. It's a knowing to it. So that this isn't me just doing this because I looks cool on the internet. Like if there was no internet, I'd be doing it at the local library. Like this is still going to be me. What happens is when you get to the point of realizing what this whole process is, there's going to be, I would honestly say it, like at least 60, 70% of the days you're going to wake up and not want to do what you have to do that day. Like there's days I get up and I don't want to do this, but because it's who I am to do it, because it's my calling, my purpose, I will still get up, flip a switch, and I'm going to do it like you have no idea I didn't want to be there. You literally people have no idea that I'm like I wasn't in super joy because the reality is even when I flip the switch, I'm flipping it going back to here's why I'm doing it. Oh,
Yes.
I remember. Let me get back to joy. And so if you can't get that switch, if you wake up like, oh, I don't feel like posting this today or writing these emails, if oh man, I don't want to do it, and then you don't do it, you need to take a check and see are you chasing something just because it looks cool or because it's what you're supposed to be doing.
I love that, man. I love that you use the word remember, because you're always remember. You don't have to find your purpose. You just remember it, right? Like you return back to that truth. Like why? Like, and it's not even always about the thing. Like sometimes it's just about who you are. Like remembering who you are is such a powerful sort of like motivator. Like when you truly lean in, and this is why the inner work I think is some of the most important work you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what, like, to me, entrepreneurship is actually one of the most spiritual journeys I've ever been on. Like, I mean, I've rediscovered kind of connection to truth, to God, to everything, just in being pushed to the brink of being forced to ask questions and dig in and find those callings and find those questions that drive me when I really don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, as long as you are constantly asking yourself that, because I'll be the first to tell you, entrepreneurship is not easy.
Mm-mm.
And
Everybody
it
knows that.
takes, but do they? I don't think so.
Uh,
I really
they
don't
may not
think
know
so.
the
I think,
depth of it. I agree. They don't know the depth of it.
I
But
think,
yeah,
man, like I think most people think the overnight success thing is a real thing. Like it took me
they
5 years to
do.
become an overnight success. It took me 28 years to become an
Yeah,
overnight success.
they do think
And
that still.
at the end of the day, like it's you have to remember. And I
Mm.
just love the word remember. It's sticking with me right now for some reason. The idea of remembering your truth. And that truth is that calling, that undercurrent that's way beyond the money, that's way beyond the freedom. Because you really even the reason you want freedom, the reason you crave freedom is so that you can be who you are, like without restrictions, right? Like
Yeah,
it's to live out
judgments,
your
worried about
right.
judgments. Hmm.
It's to live out your calling. So even that thing, like if you say you get an entrepreneurship because you want the money, I would highly recommend asking a deeper question. Like, why do I want the money? Oh,
Hmm.
I want the money because it's gonna give me choice. Okay, why is choice important to you? Choice is important to me because it's gonna give me freedom. Why is freedom important to me? Oh, because then I can live my life without restrictions. Why the hell is that important to you? Boom. Now you're getting
Over and
to the
over.
heart.
Hmm.
You're getting to the meat and potatoes of who you are.
Yeah, and that's the
And
person you got to figure out. That's people don't really know that person typically. That's where, and the thing is, that's the real work, right? Because is
yeah.
that I don't know who said it, but you can never grow a business past the level you've grown yourself. And if you, and
Love
what
that.
that looks like is like the moments in time, the conversations. It's those little moments that happen in passing. It's the phone call that you get, and do you give the refund or not? Even though maybe technically you shouldn't, or but let like eat it. We'll call it ethically you should. We'll call it right. So there's certain things you make decision wise, or conversations you do have, or do you big time people because all of a sudden you got a little bit of clout, right? How do you operate? And that depth of who you are as a human, your business lives and dies in those moments. It's usually in the dark. You don't see them, you don't think about them, they just happen. You're like, what is going? Why is this thing? And all of a sudden, it climbs or it falls. And I think what I attest entrepreneurship in terms of people say it's the work. It's kind of like when people say marriage is going to be work. And I know that everybody hears that. And it's funny. It's like I heard that, I got married, but you don't know what that means until you're in the middle of it. You're like, oh, that's the kind of work it takes. It's the work of like, my wife is nagging me because I got to do this one thing and I really don't want to do this thing. But I go do it. I got to fix the fence in the middle of the night and it's raining and I don't want to, stupid stuff. But that's the work because that turns into, you never listen to me and you never da da da. And like, it's all these, that was like the straw that brought the camel's back, but that's how you're operating everywhere. And so that's the work that you can't, it's hard to sit there and tell anybody what's really going to be. It's just all you can say is it's going to be hard work. And then when you get into it, then you're like, oh, this is the hard work. And then you have to make decisions like all the time in the middle. And then are you a person that's consistently battling that and like trying to fight, or do you just go into it and say, I'm going to embrace this? And I find joy in that work. So now there's things that I before I used to, man, I would always try to find ways to avoid and not deal with, but now I find joy in doing them. And when you get to the point of joy, that's where it all breaks open. And I think it breaks open because the same amount of work that you have to do is the same amount of work somebody else has to do. But you look at another person and it looks like they're doing it with ease, like it's effortless. And I'm like, why does it look so effortless to this person? And I'm over here stressing, and that's the separator. When you can do the hard work, because that same hard work's moving the needle for both of you. But if
Yeah.
you are doing it with anger and pain, you're going to burn out. When
Yep.
you find joy in it, you'll do more of it. You'll do it more consistently. You'll last longer, and you'll do work past that work that somebody else just they can't get past the headache of it. That like when I have people I have bring on as clients, like I gotta post 3 times a day. Yeah, find joy in the hard work of that. Because if you can't do that consistently, you're never going to get to the point of having anybody see you. Or if you can't write certain things, you can't get in front of a camera. If these things are things you can't find a way to get to joy in, you're not going to have what you're talking about. And I can do it with happiness and joy. It's easy. I do that and then some. You're still stuck doing the thing, trying to do the thing that I've already completed and moved on past. And then you wonder why you're not successful. Like those are the separators.
Yeah, to me, man, like I love the idea of making hard work feel easy. And one of the best ways that I've been able to find that is by consistently and this is like a cornerstone of my day. This is one non-negotiable, and that is gratitude.
Yeah.
When you practice everyday gratitude, when you count your privileges, and yes, it is a privilege to be in a relationship because that person doesn't have to love you forever. It is a privilege to be a boss because your employees don't have to work for you. It is a privilege to be of service to others because those people can find other people to give their attention to. At the end of the day, if you don't take inventory of the privileges that you have in your life and recognize that all of this can be taken away from you at any given moment, nothing is given to you at face value. And I think consistently reminding yourself that, you know what, like I have to earn the love I have in my life. I have to. And yes, we are all inherently loved as human beings. Like you
Yeah.
are lovable as you are. That's not what my point is. But if you truly want to do great work, and if you want to take this entrepreneurship thing, if you want to really invest and have the relationships you want, you have to recognize the privilege you have of even playing this game, right? Like the privilege you have to have an opportunity to have a loving relationship with your spouse or your partner, right? The privilege to have a loving relationship with your kids, the privilege
Yeah.
to build companies that are going to give others opportunities. And to me, that is the undercurrent of this human experience. If you can practice gratitude inside of the good and the bad times, not just when shit hits the fan,
Yeah.
not when things
Enjoy
are
the
going
craziness.
off, like right when you can practice being grateful in all of it, that's what I think sharpens the armor and the sword, if you would. It sharpens the metal and the reasons why you do what you do.
Agreed, bro. Agreed. It's all a
Whew.
crazy journey. It's hard to put any of these things into definitive words, but I hope anybody listening, no matter what time you tuned in or when you get on or when you get off, you grab something. Hope you
Yeah,
grab something
man.
and listen to it.
I hope I hope And I just want to take a moment to appreciate you, my dude. Like I am very grateful to I just love the way you carry yourself.
Thank you.
And I'm just grateful to call you a friend. I'm
Good to know.
grateful to just see you do you in the way that you do it. And inspiring. It's inspiring because you're not like it's evident in the way you show up. And even now, over the last hour, right? Like it's just it's who you are. And I love the I'm very grateful to have someone like you in my life that I can call a
Thank you, man.
friend. So
Appreciate
you
it.
are
Kiddo.
brother. All right. Well, if there's we maybe have time for one more question. So if
We throw
anyone has a
one more in the
question,
mix.
let's see.
Throw un más questiones. That's my
Un más
Spanish for the day.
un más cuestiones. All right. So if you guys got any questions, drop it below,
Drop it.
and we'll answer.
Drop it like
Um,
it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. What happened to
let me
Snoop
see.
Dogg? Here's some Snoop Dogg going on.
Right now, love
No,
it.
no, no.
I was
I'm
like, let's
I'm
play a
wandering
soundtrack to
around.
this last question.
I'm finding
Soundtrack to
out that
this last
I
question.
needed so I didn't have time to meditate today, and you're getting me scatterbrained. I just cleaned my entire desk in my office while we were talking. I wasn't, but it helps me focus. It's super weird. Like when I can't sit still, because I had to meditate to bring it back in, but I went through a quick process, didn't get to this morning. So like I sit here and I'm fidgety, like thinking. So I need to woosah. I'm not even
Well,
a
it's an active
stress.
meditation. It's an active meditation, man.
It's an active mode. Like, so my everything. Look at this. Look at I packed all my wires up, and I'm super organized right now. Like dude, it's I got it all. Look at how beautiful that looks right now from my office little thing. I fold it up here and I got all my. It's crazy. It's all organized. We're good though. But yeah, it's interesting. I actually got it done. If not, I'd have been here doing fidgety stuff and weirdness. We got a question. How do you
We
guys
got
handle
questions.
loved ones, clients who have not done the inner work resistantly? Ooh, boy, you just had a good one.
Ooh,
A good one.
that's a meaty question. You want to go first, or you want me to
Yes.
hit this one?
Oh man, I go first. Here's my
All right.
quick and dirty of it, but it'll give you some information. So the problem is, I am a guy who coaches and talks. This is stuff I teach. I go on stage and talk in front of thousands of people. I cannot reach my siblings. I can't reach my wife. I struggle to reach my kids at times, not from the sense of like they don't listen, but it's hard to get that in. So what I've found is sometimes people are just too close to you to get the information you need. So I think you need to do two things. One, you need to realize that it's okay to plant the seed, but you may not be the person to water it.
Yep.
Plant it, let somebody do their thing, like and just said, now it's there, but it's got to be their idea to do that work to go. They got to own that and earn it, and they got to be able to come back and be like, thank you for giving me the direction. I went and did the work. That's who I am now, right? You can't be the one dragging them. But then once you plant the seed, you can help water it by introducing them to people that have inspired you or are inspiring that can help water their seed, right? So maybe a coach, it could be a book, it could be an individual, whatever it is. So in my experience, when people are resistant to change, they don't want to do the inner work, let them see you just do you. And they'll wonder like, why are you so, I hope someday you figure it out. Plant the seed.
Nope.
And then here's a book I like. And here's, you should check this guy's a video I thought was cool I watched. Or just post it. And then like maybe they'll see it, right? But then eventually you can introduce them to people that inspire you, and then that can be the watering of the seed.
I love that. We got about a minute
My
left,
man
so I'm
Ken
gonna try.
Joslin.
I'm gonna fire through this one real quick. But
Yeah.
to me, echoing off of what Anthony said, it's not your job to change anybody. It can be your role to create an environment that inspires them to seek change themselves. And I think that is something that can be in everybody's control. Like so me as a CEO, like I can't inspire I can't force my employees to do things, but I can create a culture that inspires them to show up and do what they need to do. So I think
Mhm.
it's recognizing that you're not necessarily responsible for anyone actually taking the action, but you can take full responsibility for creating an environment that allows them to feel safe enough to lean into personal growth because that's really the thing that I think stops people from leaning in. It's fear. So when you can create a safe environment, you give others the privilege of leaning into themselves and making that choice for themselves.
I dig it. I'm with it.
All
What
right,
about
fellas.
snaps? Snaps?
Snaps. All right, guys, we got about 3 seconds.